The war for Delta Eridani 4 had lasted 73 hours. That was all it took for the planet's lush valleys, once alive with silver-leafed flora and rivers of bioluminescent water, to become a field of wreckage and smoke. The skies were darkened by the hulks of shattered ships, and the ground trembled with the endless rumble of machines. General Aircana of the Vrel Dominion stood atop the ridge of basalt, her armor gleaming like molten gold in the reddish haze. Around her lay the bodies of her enemies, humans mostly, burned, twisted, defeated. The air smelled of ozone and iron. Her victory was all but certain. Arcana, towering at nearly 3 meters, was bred for war. Her race, the Vrel, had conquered 12 star systems, and the humans were supposed to be their final, easy conquest. The humans had no planetary defenses of note, no fleets that matched the Dominion's power. And yet, they fought like creatures that did not understand the meaning of surrender. She admired that, in a way. Primitive though they were, the humans had tenacity that the Dominion had not anticipated. "Status," she barked. Her second in command, the smaller Vrel named Hector, stepped forward. Resistance pockets eliminated. Final sweep in progress. Their central command bunker was neutralized 10 minutes ago. No survivors detected. Arcana's tusked mouth curled into a grin. "Then the system is ours." She raised her spear, the ceremonial weapon of her lineage, etched with the names of ancestors who had conquered worlds before her, and thrust it into the sky. Around her, her soldiers roared. It was a guttural, thunderous sound that echoed through the ruined valley. The roar of conquest. She roared in triumph. And then she stopped cold when the human stood. At first, she thought it was her imagination, a trick of light, or perhaps a power surge from one of the wrecked exosuits scattered across the battlefield. But no, there, from the smoking crater that had once been the human command post, something moved. It was a man. A single human soldier, barely armored. His face streaked with soot and blood. His helmet hung from his side, cracked and scorched. He moved unsteadily, as though the planet itself resisted his existence. Yet somehow he stood. "Impossible," Hector muttered. "That bunker was vaporized." Arcana said nothing. She could feel it, something emanating from the man, something more than mere defiance. A hum in the air, faint but distinct, like the resonance of a power core pushed to its limits. The human looked up at her, his eyes catching the dying light. There was no fear in them. Then he started walking. Arcana descended the ridge, her massive boots crushing stone and debris. "Identify yourself," she demanded in galactic standard. "You stand before General Arcana of the Vrel Dominion. Kneel, and I may spare your final breath." The man didn't reply. His lips moved silently, forming words in his own tongue. Earth English, if Arcana's translator implant was functioning correctly. She caught fragments. "Not yet, can't let it end here." When he reached the flat of the valley, she saw the source of the strange hum, a device strapped to his chest, glowing faintly blue. It was human-made but unlike any known military technology. The air around it seemed to shimmer. Arcana leveled her spear. "You carry a weapon of forbidden design. Deactivate it." The man stopped walking. "It's not a weapon," he said quietly. "It's a seed." Her translator flickered. "A seed." He nodded once. "Humanity doesn't die today." Before Arcana could respond, the device pulsed. A shockwave rippled outward, slamming into her and her soldiers like a hurricane. The ground cracked open, molten light spilling forth. The human fell to his knees, shouting something lost to the roar of energy. Arcana steadied herself. Around her, Vrel soldiers scrambled, shouting in alarm as their armor sensors overloaded. "Shields up," she bellowed. "Contain that blast." But there was no containing it. The blue light expanded, weaving through the air like veins of fire. And then life. That was the only word that fit. From the charred soil, vines erupted, glowing and pulsing with impossible vitality. The air filled with oxygen-rich mist. The planet was healing itself. The human slumped forward, one hand pressing against the ground. The device on his chest dimmed. He was alive but barely. Arcana stared at the newly reborn Earth around her. "What have you done?" she whispered. The man looked up, his voice ragged. "It's called a terraform seed. We built it for worlds we ruined. Never thought we'd use it to fight a war." She felt something foreign, something that might have been respect or perhaps fear. The Dominion had scorched worlds to ash, but they had never created life. "This changes nothing," she said, forcing steel into her tone. "You're one man. You can't stop an empire." He smiled faintly. "Maybe not me." He reached to his wrist and tapped a command. Across the horizon, faint blue lights began to flicker. Hundreds of them. Dozens of humans had deployed them before the final assault. The valley began to shake again. The planet thought dead was waking up. Hours passed. The Vrel fleet in orbit began to lose communication as the planetary biosphere interfered with their systems. Strange electromagnetic fields grew, distorting signals, disabling drones. Forests began sprouting from nothing. Rivers carved new paths through the dead plains. The planet itself was rejecting its conquerors. Arcana stood by the crater where the human lay. He was dying, that much was clear. But his eyes were still open. "Why fight?" she asked him quietly. "You must have known you couldn't win." He coughed, laughing weakly. "Winning isn't the point. You burn everything you touch. We just wanted to make sure something survived. Even if we didn't." She didn't know what to say. For the first time in her long military life, she felt uncertainty, a fracture in the certainty of conquest. The sky thundered. Lightning, green and alive, split the clouds. Her comm implant buzzed with desperate voices from orbit. "General, the planet is destabilizing. We must withdraw." Arcana looked down at the human one last time. His eyes were closed now. His chest no longer rose. She turned toward her ship, her jaw tightening. "All forces retreat," she commanded. "Delta Eridani 4 is no longer ours." As her dropship ascended, she saw from the viewport what the human had done. The world below shimmered with color, wild and untamed. The Dominion's scars were being erased by the will of a dead man. And though her kind would never admit it, that day, General Arcana of the Vrel Dominion learned something her species had long forgotten: that life, even in defeat, can roar louder than conquest.